Hey y'all, it's Phil, aka the Blerd Explorer here. I'm out with Star Talk talking with J Haleem. Stay tuned and listen to some good information.
I'm in the studio with J Haleem.
I'm in the studio with J Haleem.
I'm in the studio with J Haleem.
I'm in the studio with J Haleem. I'm in the studio with J Haleem.
You are now in the studio with J Haleem.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy J Haleem. We are in another episode of S.T.A.R.V.E Talk, and we taking it all the way across the globe. So we got this brother here, Big Phil. I'm gonna call him Big Phil, the Blerd Explorer. And I really was excited about this interview because it's something that we don't have too many conversations about, especially not in the households, not growing up and things of that nature. If you are traveling in the Black community, usually you try to keep it to yourself or keep it within your family. You always see that family that's always leaving for spring break, always going away for summers, and they're not coming back and having whole community conversations about it. It's just what that family does. And if your family's not doing it, oh well. If you are, oh well. So this brother here has created a situation where he wants to have a conversation all the time, every day, talking about Black people exploring the world and seeing how they can grow their families and grow in their stature by traveling the world. So without further ado, I want to introduce you guys to Big Phil. I coined that name, so we're gonna roll with that. Big Phil, the Blerd Explorer.
Okay.
How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. How we doing up there?
Doing well, man. Now you're in Korea right now. So
right,
you're the first person I interviewed in Korea. So
okay, nice.
That's what's up, man. Thank you for taking me out there with you. We really appreciate that. That's a big deal. I don't take that lightly because you could have easily been asleep right now.
Yeah, that's true.
So I definitely appreciate that. So let me put that out there for you. So again, let's start from the beginning, man. How did you get into traveling and going out overseas? How did you get into that?
I would say I always had interest in traveling, seeing other parts of the world. Mostly my first interest became because of watching anime on a Cartoon Network. So I was thinking, okay, I always want to go to Japan, just like in the early mid late 2000s, of course. And growing up, like during the 2000s and during the 90s, 2000s, like now me personally, I did travel. My first trip abroad was to visit my dad while I was in Germany, but I was like, wow, like 6 or 7, like in like the late 90s. So I usually don't count that personally.
Yeah.
But me, again, growing up, I always had an interest to see the world. But the problem was at the time, I think African Americans can agree, like I didn't know, I never seen or ever heard of a Black person traveling or living abroad that wasn't in the military.
Yeah.
Like ever. It was just never a thing. Like unless it was work related or then it's like, that's when you see her or seen a Black person, traveling or living abroad. Other than that, you never talked about that or seen it before. Yeah, you may have with that one aunt or uncle who may have done it before, but who does travel occasionally, but it was pretty rare at the time.
Yeah. So where are you from originally?
I'm from South Carolina.
South Carolina. Okay. What part?
Near a small town called Blythewood, near Columbia, the capital of Columbia.
So this is a small world. So what you realize, this podcast was started in Columbia, South Carolina.
Nice.
So yeah, you went all the way across the world and came right back to South Carolina. Yeah. So yeah, man. So from South Carolina, and imagine you're in Blythewood, so you saw Fort Jackson, and a lot of people in Fort Jackson going overseas.
Yeah, about right, I would say so. Well, my story is complicated. Let's just say I kind of call South Carolina my home, but I'm not really originally from there. I lived in different states, lived in Washington, lived in Alabama, so we've been kind of around. So I would say I kind of call South Carolina my home because that's where I finished high school and finished college there too.
Okay. And so once you finished college, what was your first trip? Was it in college or after college?
It was after college. Well, for me, so we went back to 2015. It was my last year of college. Like any seniors in university, you try to find a job, can't find nothing, and then one day I saw an ad about the idea about teaching English in South Korea, and I kind of looked, did some initial research about that. And I thought, okay, this might be a good chance to travel the world, pay off my student loan debt, and travel to other countries. Probably go to Japan too. I even thought about teaching Japan too, English in Japan too, but I saw it in South Korea because it's a more well-known reputation.
Okay. So you was taken over there for work purposes.
Right. Yes, sir.
Okay. And so when you got to South Korea and you started working in South Korea, what did you see that made you want to go to the next country, and things of that nature?
I think it's just the idea because I'm so close, like in terms of like, especially going to Asia in general. Like I'm in a pretty decent location, so if I want to go to like Thailand, Philippines, Malaysia, Laos, Cambodia, I have like pretty decent options and such. And and also if I wanted to say try to hit the Middle East someday, or maybe possibly Europe, I might have a good spot too.
Yeah. Okay. So you get over there, you're teaching, you see that you're in the proximity. What happened between this like 7 years? You said 2015. What happened between then and now where you at what part where you say, okay, I need to write a book about this, or what struck your heart about trying to help other Black people, African Americans get, they're getting in their mind to travel abroad?
My first thought, I've been thinking about it for years. Like I had a little typical travel blog when I first moved to Korea in 2016. And and I've been thinking for years, like what can I do to like, maybe earn a little money, so but also help Black people too at the same time, right? And then 2020 happened, and it was around May. I was working at elementary school, making a lesson plan for my classes and stuff. And then I was listening to a webinar series about trying to earn like side hustle money, right? And I thought, what's something that nobody has done before? And I thought like, there's never been a travel guide specifically for African Americans, for Black people, for other countries. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you can find solo travel guides for men, solo travel guides for women. I think I see a few Black women solo travel guides, which are great, and they're good for their niche, right? But there wasn't nothing for like an overall Black people, for the everyday Black person could read and see what it's like to travel into another country or city, but from a Black perspective, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's so the first book. So summer 2020, I wrote my first book called The Black Traveler's Guide to Incheon, South Korea. And I was living in that city at the time, so it was easier for me to get around.
Okay. So what did you learn that for Black people, the benefit coming to this particular part of South Korea?
Well, for me at least, it was more of a test drive because I actually thought about using my first book as for Seoul, but I thought, okay, that'd been too easy. Plus, Seoul, the city itself, is very oversaturated. Like you can find almost everything and anything, written about, talking about, videos about Seoul. So I wanted to make my content a little bit more different, kind of make me stand out a little bit.
Okay.
So that's why I focused on Incheon.
What is it about this place that makes it that you feel like Black people be attracted to it?
The nature. Well, I mean, South Korea whole has so much nature because like it's a mountainous country, so it's like tons of mountains. So everywhere you go, so there's lots of hiking in that part. I feel like it's definitely an underrated city for exploration. You can find things to do. It's a little bit more affordable than Seoul. If you want to go to Seoul, it's easy. It's easier to make it there about 35-45 minute bus ride or subway ride to Seoul. I would say it's a good starting point in general.
Okay.
In terms of South Korea.
So are you connected with the military, the American military that comes out there? Or do you get a chance to come across a lot of American military that's out there and get in conversation with them?
I met a few military folk, most of them through the Smash Bros tournament scenes over here in Korea, but that's about it. But I'm not really that deep and connected with them guys.
Do you think that making that connection can help out even with what you're doing as far as a travel guide? Because a lot of times, again, being close to a lot of military people, like, I'm in the fraternity, everybody in my line is military except for me. So, you get to know they've traveled all over the world, been to different places, Korea for one, a lot of Germany, Japan, things of that nature. So I know that they're well versed. And so I just wanted to see if you had any interaction with some of them and seeing if they had any struggles or any tips that can help your readers in their journeys over there in places like Korea.
No, to be honest, I'll admit to that. I have not thought about that, but I may look into that for the third book too. Maybe talk to them, maybe let them know, hey, especially for the first time, Black folk who are new to Korea, don't know much or what to expect and stuff. So that could be, general idea I could try next time.
What is
But
some
yeah,
of the
go ahead.
okay,
No,
I'm
please go
sorry.
ahead. Yeah, so the times I did talk to military person, usually either at a mutual event like a trivia game night or like Smash Bros tournaments over here in Korea. That's about it.
Okay. So what is some of the hardships you went through just making an adjustment coming from America and living in Korea full time?
A lot. Like one, going from a multi-diverse country like the US to a homogenous nation like South Korea, where 95% of the population looks everywhere, looks all the same, no matter where you look. Two, going to where a country where English is not the first language for everybody, for most of the population. And also me being tall, like I'm 6'7", 2 meters tall. So of course, shopping for clothes, it's not happening over here for me.
What do
And
you
of course,
do?
big challenge for
Do you
any
get
black
stuff
man.
shipped?
Yeah, yeah. Most of it, I'll pretty much import all my clothes from Amazon. Like it's just so much easier that way.
That has to be a little bit of a struggle, you know.
It can be like I mean, there is a decent chance. Like I'll be honest. So for those who don't know, so South Korea, it's like many Asian countries. Their fashion attire, clothes, is more about looking at appearance. So basically looking like slim. So obviously there are some plus size clothes for plus size folk, but it's not as common. Like you don't find as many shops. It's really hard to find those shops. And again, like if you want to find them, you'll most likely find them in the capital of Seoul. And that's like a 4-hour trip. I'm not riding a bus for 4 hours just to buy clothes. Like
Yeah, I
clothes is
understand.
not worth it for me.
So you wrote the first book. How did the first book do? How do you feel like you were able to do? Did you get a
I
good
think
reception?
it's for a first time author, like he did like, okay, I spending like big sales, of course, and especially for a niche market like I'm doing. So for the first time, it's like, okay, not bad. Let's do better. Let's do better and better, And I think like when you start a new adventure, like say a new podcast, YouTube channel or book, like you from the first episode you do, first 2 episodes, yeah, it's like a learning process basically. You did okay, first is a test drive, next book, next episode, let's try to do better. Like what can I do better? What can I do differently?
Okay. And the second one, give us the name of the second book.
The Black Traveler's Guide to Daegu, South Korea, which is more further south.
Okay. So how did you get introduced to this portion, this city?
Oh, I actually lived there before from 2018 and 2019.
Oh, okay.
I was working at a job there, so I had a chance to live in both Incheon and Daegu.
What stood out to you about this one that made you say, okay, I want to put a book out about it for African Americans?
One, obviously, there's a military base there in Daegu, South Korea, so there's a U.S. Army base there, so that could help a little bit. But also, I wanted to, I guess, have all the cities. Daegu doesn't get, that's what I would say, as in terms of large cities, Daegu doesn't get much love compared, because everybody wants to think, when it comes to Korea, think either Seoul, Busan, maybe Incheon, but no Daegu. Like Daegu's like the baby in the family, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Daegu has the famous fried chicken and beer festival too. So that's what gave him the extra win.
Is it like American fried chicken, or is it just what they call
Korea
fried
has
chicken?
its own style fried chicken. So for those who don't know, African American soldiers, when it came through, when the station during the Korean War, they taught Koreans how to fry chicken.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so that was in the Korean War. After they left, and I guess kind of like during like late 70s, 80s, like a recession over here in South Korea, many Koreans ended up opening up their own fried chicken restaurants.
Wow.
Yeah, and now like there's so many franchises. Like everywhere you go in Korea, no matter where you go in Korea, you will always find a fried chicken franchise. It'd be a mom and pop or like a franchisee. Like you will find fried chicken places everywhere. I mean, everywhere.
Wow. So how's the health over there? Are they still more healthy than Americans? Or did it's because it's not the most healthy
I mean,
food.
it's still kind of growing over here in Korea, but in terms compared to US, is more healthy. They do have a lot of vegetables, but most of it is a little bit high in soy, especially with kimchi. But also what makes Korea unique is compared to US is like, again, I mentioned before, South Korea is very mountainous, so walking, hiking is very common.
Okay.
Like, especially if you're going to the subways, you'll be going down like basement level 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 when you're riding the subways in Korea.
So keep you moving, huh? Keep you
Keep you moving. So you come to Korea, man, make sure you get your leg days and core ready before you come to Korea. It'll make life easier on that front.
Yeah, I understand. So yeah, so the second book, you did that book. How did that do, or how was it doing?
I feel it's doing a little bit better for sure. And this time, what I did was I kind of did like a little Q&A section. I reached out to other Black people I know in South Korea, and I wanted to get their stories of what their experience was like being Black in Korea and tell their side of the story.
Yeah.
So that's what I did for this book. And now I'm actually writing another book called The Black Travel's Guide to South Korea. So I'm doing the travel guide for all of South Korea, the country of South Korea.
All right. So people back home, how did they receive it? Did anybody say that they were interested in coming out and visiting because they got a chance to read your book?
Yes, and other podcasters I went on all said the same thing. They're interested about traveling. They want to get a passport. They all want to come to South Korea after reading my books. So it's like just knowing that it's seeming that people are interested. There's that desire to travel, and desire now, especially because of Netflix shows like Squid Game and whatnot, other K-dramas and stuff. There's more interest in South Korea. But now when they saw these two books I wrote, now it's like, okay, they're not only they're interested in the books, but also that they want to travel to South Korea sometime in the future.
Yeah, that's something. One of the things I've seen, again, just traveling, period. We definitely have to do a little bit better at, encouraging Black people to know that the world is bigger than America, and sometimes is even the world is bigger than the city that you live in. Because I was born and raised in Newark, New Jersey, which is right outside of New York City, and it's so many people who don't even frequent New York City. I remember being one of them when I was dating my wife, and she would come to visit me when we were in college in summer break, and I would never go across the bridge, and she forced me to go across the bridge to New York. She was like, well, I'm going to come in and stay in New York. You come over to New York with me. She's like, why did you never bring me over here? Because that we were just so caught up in what was in our city, not worrying about other places. And she's from DC, and I know people that lives in Maryland would not cross over to go into DC almost for nothing unless they just had to. And it's like so much there, but they just wouldn't do it. So it's crazy. So we have to start utilizing all the things that we have. And today is a global economy, a global world. Yeah. You might have something to sell that's not, the people in America might not like it, but people in South Korea might love it. So how are you helping individuals to say, hey, maybe a friend of yours or maybe people have a business model that it's not as hurting, but you can open up to different markets for them in South Korea? Have you had those conversations saying, hey, you're having trouble over here, but they'll love that in South Korea?
Not that type of business, because now I can't really recommend that because each country, for those who know, like every country has different visa rules, regulations. So open up a business over here is kind of a little bit more harder because in this case, if you want to open up your own business in South Korea, you need to have like, I guess, Korean spouse. You got to be Korean.
Wow.
Yeah. So again, keep in mind, each country is different with the rules and regulations about if you want to start your own business. So keep that in mind.
I love that. That's education. Yeah. See?
Yeah.
Because people need to know that. That's a big deal.
Yeah. So you're right. Because I think I talked to other people before, a friend or my sister before, like if you thought about, hey, if one business may not work here because you don't have access to capital or whatnot, maybe try other countries. I hear Portugal seems to be fine because I think there's a YouTube channel called Irish Journey. It was like a Black couple who via investing with mutual funds, stock trading, they were able to become financially secure and quit their jobs. And now one of the recent videos saying how Portugal is like becoming more friendly for people who want to open up businesses in Portugal, in the country of Portugal. So maybe if you have the idea for a business, maybe you could consider that. But of course, again, like with any country, every country is going to be different rules, regulations, and taxes. So before you pull that plug, I say look at everything. Look at the pros and cons. Don't make sure you don't sugarcoat anything when it comes to living in that country. Because traveling is different. It's fun and all, but that's temporary. You're going to try to live in another country like full time. So you got to know the ins and outs, just like any city. But I kind of want to circle back what you're saying about how our own people sometimes don't leave our own city. I think in general, like most Americans never leave the city or their state, and they're proud of that fact. I mean, there's nothing wrong with not having a hometown love. It's like, dude, go live somewhere else. Like, if you're able to, go live somewhere, go live in another city, state, region, back in another country. Like, if you want to come back and settle, like, when settle down, have a family back in your hometown, hey, go ahead and do that when you're older and stuff. When you're in your 30s or 40s, like, at least in your 20s, like, go somewhere else.
Yeah, yeah. I totally respect that. I mean, being a person, again, being from New Jersey and going to South Carolina for college, moving to Washington, D.C. I lived in Georgia for a while, back in South Carolina. Now we're in Nevada. Like, I appreciate seeing different scenarios, and I've traveled to multiple places in different countries and things like that. So I understand it. I understand it. What has it helped you? How has it helped you? What do you see when you come back home? How do you navigate when you come back home? You feel like I gotta hurry up and get out of here. Do you feel homesick? How do you feel?
Honestly, like most people, they like when it comes to living abroad, some people are just not built for it. Like, I get it's not gonna be for everybody. Some people just say, I want to be close to my family. I miss living over here. And again, there's some aspects of the US I miss, like buying clothes, electronics, but in general, I just don't miss living in the US in general.
Okay.
Like, I'm not in a huge hurry to go back, even for visiting. I'm not in a huge hurry to go back, like, because again, the world's so big. There's so many places I want to see. I want to do stuff. And also, like, when I went back, I actually went to visit some of my family members back in 2019. I mean, it was nice. I was happy to see them again, but it's like living back, I felt stressed out. Like, I'm not feeling as happy I was as before. And not to mention, I was kind of concerned because if I got sick, if I got injured while I was visiting the States, like, I can't afford a doctors. I'm stressed up at the hospital. Whereas in other countries, like, oh, if I'm sick, I just go in, go to the doctor, get checked out, pay the hospital's bill on the spot, and just go home. I got to worry about the debt. I got to worry about deductibles, pensions, and my network, all that American healthcare BS nonsense.
I love that because people need to have that education. I've met some people, especially like going to Africa. I never really talked to a lot of people going to Korea besides somebody in the military, and they were always planning on coming home. But a lot of people now, especially African Americans, like they'll get a chance to go to Africa, not like on a tourist piece, like really go to like Ghana or somewhere like that, Nigeria. And then they be like, I'm not coming back. I don't want to ever come back. It's better here. And they, America has a lot to offer, a whole lot to offer, but they're settling for, saying, forget all of the stuff that they have to offer for peace. Do you find that is more peace or peace of mind being abroad than it is in America?
I think so. I think for other African Americans, say it's like, again, like, you don't have to worry about the police for one. Yeah, that's one big piece of mine. Whenever I travel around the world, like, I don't have to worry about police trying to shoot me because I'm Black. Two, again, healthcare. That's a great reason to, like, again, like other countries, again, Canada, UK, they got universal healthcare systems. It's not perfect. I'm sure there's flaws that I'm not aware of, but I guarantee you, and just like with the pre-healthcare system, I wouldn't trade this. I would never want to go back to the American healthcare system. It's just knowing that peace of mind, just saying, again, like, if I get sick, I just go walk in, pay my bill, and just go home. Like, I ain't gonna worry about going to debt for help getting checked out for treatment.
I love that. Again, I know you're talking about traveling or what have you, but it bears to question, once you get exposed to something, because that's what happened for me pretty much most of the time. I go someplace and I'm like, I can actually live here, or I'm an entrepreneur, been that way full time for years. I look at opportunities and I realized, not too long into it, that my business can run anywhere for the most part in America anyway. And so if I see, like, I saw Nevada didn't have what I was providing. And then when I brought it to Nevada, they were welcoming, like, hey, yeah, we need that. And so I'm like, all right, I'm out of here. No questions about it. So, do you try to encourage people to just take the chance and see, what these other places have in store and what it can probably offer you?
Oh, definitely. I say one of my favorite quotes is, if you don't take risks, you can't create a future, basically.
Wow.
Yeah, from Uncle D. Luffy from One Piece. but yeah, but I definitely agree. Like, it never hurts to try because one, I'll give you a real example. One of my best friends, Jamal Simmons from high school, we left South Carolina around the same time, I want to say like 2016, right? Because his goal, like he went to kind of like a graduate school in Florida to work on like filmography, videography.
Mm-hmm.
And because he left South Carolina, he's now working. He worked at Florida State. He worked at I think Charlotte Bobcats, I think, state basketball team.
Yeah.
He was a
mhm.
camera guy, and now he's at Virginia Tech. He's the director of their I guess film crew. I guess you could say. I'm not
Yeah.
sure,
mhm. Production
but
team.
basically, like you'll see him on the field, like shooting the camera. He's the camera guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, it's like it's one of those situations like uh if you don't leave your state, like you don't if you leave your city, like to go try working somewhere else, try to chase if you have an idea or it's a job you want to try in another city or state, like go for it. Like you've got nothing to lose. And again, if it doesn't work out, hey, at least you can say, okay, at least you can say I tried it. It didn't work out for me personally. Let's just go home and try to reset, you know?
Yeah. So what is some of the other opportunities? I know you said teaching English to Korean citizens, but what are some of the other opportunities that African Americans can possibly take advantage of as far as jobs out there in any of the cities that you mentioned, or Seoul, anywhere in South Korea?
Well, in general, obviously you guys work for international company. I know that some people do, especially I've seen on the TikTokers, like they kind of do like cosmetic. They work for like a cosmetic company or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But again, keep in mind, like when it comes to visas, it's kind of hard. Like you have to like specialize because for South Korea, there's obviously the most common visa for me. Like everybody else, like teaching English visa, the English teacher visa. You can apply for a permanent residency visa, but the rules are always still changing, so it's kind of hard to like keep it up to date, and you don't know what's going to happen. And of course, like the specialized visa, like engineers or maybe have a specialist doctor or something like that.
Yeah.
So again, those are ones that are a little bit more challenging to find, but and they're tied to your employer. So if you lose that job, then you lose kind of like lose your visa basically.
Okay. Okay.
So again, this is for South Korea. Keep that in mind. Other countries have their own different rules, visa rules and regulations. Let's keep that in mind. So
yeah, I
different
love
house,
it.
different.
So the big elephant in the room, because this would be, I think people going to really want to know this.
Sure.
How did you guys deal with COVID over there?
Well, compared to the U.S., now for those who know, many Asian cultures, wearing masks is normal. It's always been normalized over here. So there wasn't a big, oh, my freedom, my rights, my mask. I'm tired of wearing a mask. So again, we all have mask fatigue, COVID fatigue. Let's be real, even I am too. But so that was the easy problem. Restrictions, unfortunately, many businesses, restaurants, bars. Many people lost their jobs due to the pandemic, especially in the restaurants, because South Korea has a massive drinking culture. It's very common for people to go out eating and drinking all the time. And so, of course, due to the pandemic, due to restrictions, many people, the bars, restaurants, they closed down. Unfortunately, the Korean churches, they continue to meet in regular capacity despite the COVID restrictions.
Wow.
And of course, that led to more outbreaks, more case numbers to churches, of course. And recently, of course, there have been anti-mask, anti-vax protests in the Gangnam area in Seoul.
Mm-hmm.
And again, now I'm pro-vaccine. If you want to get vaccinated, I'm not going to push you on, right? But the danger I saw was these anti-maskers, anti-vaxxer protesters,
Mm-hmm.
the mandates, the anti-mandate vaxxers. The problem was they were peddling misinformation, disinformation from non-credible sources.
Yeah.
And I actually made a TikTok video about this. This was back in, I want to say around Christmas time last year. And I saw this picture of this quote unquote doctor called Dr. Jane Ruby on this concern. They had a poster of it in Korean, right? Translated in Korean, right? And it turned out the person, Jane Ruby, she's not a doctor in medicine. She's not a credible doctor. She's not an epidemiologist. She has a doctorate in psychology.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. And this is a Korea problem. Internationally, there's COVID misinformation, disinformation being spread in other languages because not everybody speaks English because, most academic medicine, scientist discoveries are going to be English, right?
Yeah.
So that's the danger I have. Again, I've I'm pro-vaccine. You get vaccinated if you want to. I'm not gonna push on you. But again, when those people who push COVID misinformation, different information, you're gonna get people killed. Like that's how I probably lost my aunt due to a pandemic because of people like that.
Yeah. So we the Blerd Explorer.
Mm-hmm.
So how did that come about?
Actually, my first title handle was the Minority Traveler, but I decided to go for Blerd Explorer as I wanted to like kind of remodel my content. And for those who don't, Blerd means black nerd.
Mm-hmm.
And so the reason I kind of did Blerd Explorer is because I kind of combine things I love: travel, food, gaming, anime, and stuff like that. Comic, Marvel, DC, anime, manga, stuff like that. So I kind of like fuse both things I enjoy.
So you said black nerd. Do you
Yes,
feel
Blerd.
like this is, that's not a because growing up, that wasn't a cool thing to be a nerd. Do you think that the tide has turned and changed?
Oh, definitely. Obviously, the nerds we all grew up. This and we're not high school or college anymore. Somebody's going to care about that stuff, and also because the MCU made Marvel comic or movies made reading comics more popular in a way. And of course, and I hate to say it, but honestly, like the Zuckerbergs, the owners of the social media apps, like, being quote unquote rich nerd is more popular. It's more cool, more trendy.
Yeah. And I've talked about that openly because, back in the day, being a dummy, he was cool though. You know what I mean? Like, as long as you were cool, it was all right. You will find what you call a nerd to help you do your work. And that was that. But now it's just like it's out there, understanding the computer, being tech, savvy and things of that nature, knowing how to crunch the numbers, knowing your math, literally, is a cool thing to be. And then you got even people who, weren't what you call nerds in school trying to revert and, follow that trend. So do you feel like that's helped you from a self-esteem perspective or just moving forward with your business?
Oh, definitely. Again, kind of makes my content, stand out more, maybe stand out as of like other travel content creators, like travel content creators here. Again, because most of them, your typical, you got black nerd, black power content, black woman pride, all that stuff, which is great. They got their own stuff and they do good jobs. But I provide type of travel content that nobody really talks about as much.
Yeah. And
again, because since my thing is, trying to reach other black anime, comic, manga, gaming fans and whatnot, travelers. So I feel like my content helps blends in more, involves more people, encourage more people to check out my content because I kind of attracts my content. My theme is kind of attracts more people in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. So your goal going forward, I mean, I know you have the 2 books and you're already working on a 3rd book. Where's your entrepreneurial path lead you going forward? Where do you see it taking you?
Maybe I'll continue to make more books in the future. Again, we'll have to see what happens with the 3rd book, of course. After the 3rd book, I'm probably gonna take a break on writing for a while.
Yeah, I understand. I
but
got 3 of my own.
Yeah.
I got 3 of my own. So the name of this podcast is S.T.A.R.V.E Talk, and the acronym is Stand Tall and Reclaim Victory Every Day. So you have went all the way to the other side of the world. Put yourself in a situation where you're far away from home, far away from what you know. Like you said, you stand out. You'll stand out in America, being as tall as you are, but now you're you're over in Korea, and you 6'7", you said.
Yep.
Not just 6'7", but 6'7" black brother. Then that's why affectionately called Big Phil.
Yeah.
And then you went alone, right? You didn't go with a spouse or anything like that. You went alone, right?
I went by myself.
Yep, you went by yourself. What does stand tall and reclaiming victory every day mean to you, going through your challenges and going through your process?
I guess for me is getting out of your comfort zone, like going to do something different that's outside the norm, I guess, quote unquote. Like most folk go home, do the rat race, buy a house, get married, have kids, and all that jazz. Nah, that's not for me. I guess for my way of saying talk Clean Victory is my way is like, okay, I don't really follow all the tropes that everybody does. And I feel I'm able to achieve more, do things more that I would never done that if I stayed in the US. Like I would never ever thought about writing 2 books or, came up with the idea of writing a 2 book or push myself to do that if
Yeah.
if I stayed in the same spot in my life.
Real quick question before we wrap up. You just said something that struck a chord with me. So did you find it harder? I mean, I know mentally you made the decision to write a book, but now that you're in the publishing process, is the publishing process harder to do over in Korea, or is it easier or just as easy as it is in the States?
I would assume that's probably easy. Now I use a company called Publish Drive, like an
Okay.
independent company. So what happens is I pay a subscription fee per every month. In exchange, I get access. I get to upload and sell all my books to, like, say, Amazon, Google Play Books, Apple Books, and I push out the retail stores.
Okay. All
So,
right.
compared to, like, say, if I just upload just only to straight Amazon or straight Google, and of
Okay.
course
So
I
you
keep
said,
all the royalties and taxes.
oh, okay. So you use Publish Drive.
Yeah, that's what website I'm using. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, just wanted to know that because again, people, like you said earlier, people are doing stuff here freely, and then you might go to another place and be like, hey, it's a whole different ball game over here, so you gotta recalibrate. So that was definitely good to know for the authors that's listening. But yeah, man, let everybody know how they can stay in touch with you. Give them your website, your social media, so they can stay in touch with you and personally your book and support what you got going on.
Yeah. So 2 books: The Black Trousers Guide to Incheon, Incheon, and The Black Trousers Guide to Daegu, Daegu. You can find it on my Amazon right now. The ebook formats only. Also, you can follow my Instagram and TikTok videos. I'm on Instagram and TikTok at the Blerd Explorer, BLERD, Blerd Explorer. And yeah, if you got questions, hit me up there.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you for the education. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for staying up a little bit for with us.
Yeah.
Again, thank you for making us relevant in Korea.
No,
So
thank you for having me on.
no problem, man. And you guys know how to keep in contact with us. Go to youtube.com /S.T.A.R.V.E Talk, www.com, www.jhaleem.com to keep up with me. I won't starve.com. Follow the movement. I am J Haleem on all platforms, all social media platforms, at S.T.A.R.V.E Talk on all the social media platforms. Just stay connected with us, subscribe, and listen. We're internationally known, not just in Europe anymore or Canada. We're in South Korea now. So, shout out to the Blerd Explorer, my big man, Big Phil. You got to take that. You got to get a shirt with Big Phil on it, man, and wear it over there. But now, we just thank you so much, man. And we're going to try to keep it as exclusive as possible every week. You already know, stay tuned, and we'll see y'all next time.
I'm in the studio with J Haleem.
I'm in the studio with J Haleem.
In the studio with J Haleem.
I am in the studio with J Haleem. I'm in the studio with J Haleem.
You are now in the studio with J Haleem.